Hello and welcome to this episode of Hampton Roads Business Live. My name is Rory Graham and I'm your host, and today I have the pleasure of having with us one of the local legends in the area, David Kennedy Jr. Welcome. Glad you're here with us today.
I'm so happy to be here myself. It's quite a thrill to be doing this today.
Okay. How about just giving us some history about you?
Well, I went on the stage when I was 3.5 years old in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And everything that came along as a child, especially in school, grade school, music-wise, was in on it. The star, a lot of them, mm-hmm. being a singer. And then they did a lot of shows on the radio station there. Even won a trip to D.C. in a contest. Mm-hmm. My father was a self-taught ukulele player, and he backed me a lot in things that I did. And it being the largest tobacco warehouses or whatever in Rocky Mount, I traveled with those people, big group, from city to city, singing and dancing with them. And then I did that all the way through, up through high school. And in 1942, as the troop trains came through Rocky Mount, which was the biggest change there, where they had to change the old steam engine, mm-hmm. the troop trains would be left at the the train station. And like I say, mamas back in those days, if you recall, in World War II, they served refreshments, the donuts and coffee as they called it. Mm-hmm. And I had an 8-piece variety show myself that we traveled around, and my group and others too, from the entertainers of the city, would entertain while they were sitting there. Mm-hmm. So that sort of like went right on up until through 1944. And in the summer of '44, I took 6 of my 8 troop and traveled with the USO group, starting out in the Air Force Base in Goldsboro, over through Memphis, Tennessee base, on up to Holyoke, Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. So that brings me up through basically the school years.
Okay.
Then in 1945, January of 1945, I joined the Navy and was in boot camp in Bainbridge, Maryland. And of course, whenever we went to the canteen, I was always there entertaining, because I had taken piano lessons from Mrs. N.B. Dozier, which was a close friend of my family. And at that time, I was also playing concerts through the school years, actually, in the different areas, assembly programs for the different schools, which I call From Bach to Boogie Woogie, which I actually originated 2 mm-hmm. boogie woogies, the different styles of the bass that they were back in then.
Okay.
And so every night that we were allowed to go to the gym, which was the canteen, I did my entertaining. And then I was transferred to Miami. And everywhere I went, I always found dancing partners anyway. So through the USO, I still was doing entertainment. Basically, you might say, for the servicemen there too. And then while I was in Miami, they had a nightclub there that they let 4 people compete for a champagne bottle. And I won the first night, which gave me the opportunity, whoever was there at the end of the month could compete again. And since I won there again, they actually extended my show business performances there through 4 months, mm-hmm. which gave me the opportunity of singing with Stan Kenton, Dean Hudson, Johnny Long, and Honore Hutton. Then I was transferred to New Orleans, and they held a contest at the St. Charles Theater, and lo and behold, Johnny Long was playing. So I played and sang night and day with his background and won first prize there. Like I say, everywhere I went, I always find dancing partners. And the steamboat that went up and down the river, we were always on it. And the guys would say, well, David, you never stay in. Where do you go all the time? You're not here at night. I said, well, I go dancing 7 nights a week and twice on Sunday. Because on Sunday, the boat went in the opposite direction that it did in the weekend on the Sunday afternoon. Mm-hmm. Then I came to Norfolk and finished out my career with the Navy here.
Okay. And so when does the tap dancing come into this?
Well, before that, though, after I got out of the service, I was teaching dancing in Greensboro, and a choral group that was made up of servicemen that was organized in Manila and on a concert tour throughout the country. And the second year, when they hit Greensboro, where I was, they heard me play and sing night and day on a radio program that I was given. And they asked me if I'd like to join them, and because they needed a lyric tenor, which I was at that time, from a boy soprano. And so I joined them for 5.5 years, and we traveled 39 states, all the major cities in there, for 5.5 years. And then when that was over, that's when I came to Norfolk. And they had just opened up the Golden Triangle Hotel.
I remember that.
And I applied for a job, and well, I came here hoping to get with a group to get back on the road again. But it was the only thing was here was Bill Deal and the Rondales and Fat Almond in 2 clubs right there on the boardwalk. Mm-hmm. And of course, like I say, my dancing partners, we kept a hot path between the 2 of them. And then that's when I got to work at the Golden Triangle Hotel, which sort of like put me here and staying here in Norfolk. And then to answer that question about that, I was working at the Omni, which is the Sheraton now, as a waiter. Mm-hmm. And the manager wanted somebody to tap dance with a dessert presentation that he had seen before. So I told him, I said, well, I haven't tap danced in 25 years, so what you get is what you get. And he said, well, if you can do it, that was to hold this framing dessert and tap dance. He said, we'll book it. Well, it went over, and luckily it booked it. So I had bought the little taps, heel taps, just for that performance. But since it was going to be booked, I went and bought the regular taps and put on a pair of black penny loafers that I bought when I was at home. And that's when I started tap dancing throughout that. Waterside opened up, and the man that owned El Porto's had seen me, and he snatched me up to perform in his restaurant there. And so I ended up being the first entertainer in Waterside, and I think, from what I understand, I was the last one too.
The last one too. Yeah.
So before that fell through. And even on the 20th anniversary of Waterside, the new manager had heard of me and asked me if I would do the 20th anniversary. And I told him I'd be glad to. So when I was there getting set up and all for that day, he came up and he said, David, says, knowing what I did already about you, I was very curious, so I looked you up, and he says, it looks like to me that you have performed more than anybody else I've ever heard of. So then, by performing there with different bands that played every Friday and Saturday nights, that kind of gave me a opening to my dancing performances. And then when the tall ships came in, they would see me dancing. The first year the Danish Navy was here, I was invited to Denmark, and I danced in 5 cities there. The second year was the Russian ship Krusenstern, which they saw me dancing inside of Waterside, and 2 of the kids on the ship were Russian dancers. And between, I do this Russian step, Cossack step, and he come up and says, "Oh, you dance Russia, you dance Russia." I said, "No, I just stole the step." But the friendship that was made with those two, one of them went back and went to Moscow and got permission for me to go over there to perform in Russia for their people. And that's a whole big long story in itself. Right. But the first performance was for 1,200 kids at a disco dance.
Well, I have down here too that I know I've known you for a while, and I've known you to do many shows that we've recorded. So I've seen you over the years, and you do pageants, and you've done different performances at all the venues in town, Sandler Center and Chrysler Hall and everything.
There had been but one or two, especially that I haven't actually been on.
Right, and you've done Vegas too. You. Well,
that was the story when I was getting. I had knee surgery, and when I was getting therapy for that, my therapist said that she and her daughter was going to Hawaii, and she had a ticket that I could go along with them. So we made arrangements with the military here to perform at Pearl Harbor and Hickman's Air Force Base during Armed Forces Week, which opened up some doors to the local performances. And so on the last night I went to see Don Ho's show in his nightclub. He found out by somebody that had seen me and told them about me from Ocean View. So he got me up on stage there. And then when I was getting my autograph from him, he said, told his manager to get in touch with me because they were coming to America on a tour, and they had already been doing a Christmas show in Vegas. And he said, "We'll go get in touch with him." So at that time, I was cooking and selling popcorn at Scope. And when I got home one Friday night, there was a message on the machine, "We're already in Vegas. Mm-hmm. When can you get here?" So I said, "Well, I'll be there this weekend." She said, "Well, go to the airport, get your ticket, and there'll be a car waiting for you when you get here." So that's how I ended up getting to Vegas. But then he ended up, when he found out that I was doing character tours and doing Santa Clauses, I ended up for 3 years as the one and only tap dancing Santa Claus in Don Ho's Christmas show. Hmm. And then the last year that I was due over there, I had danced for the local Mrs. Senior Miss America, and they invited me to perform for the finals in Vegas, which ended up 2 weeks before Don's show. So that's 4 big performances. And also while I was there, being a ham as I am, wherever I found a karaoke in some of the other hotels, I ended up doing karaoke's for the 3 weeks that I was there in 4 of the biggest hotels there.
So let me ask you, what drives you? What is your why such a passion for this? Because you've been performing since would you say 3?
3.5 when I went on stage.
Yeah. So
I would like to say this too. That first trip to Europe, to Russia, ended up in 3 more years going to Russia, which I was the only American entertainer at the 50th anniversary of World War II that they celebrated with dignitaries and their stars from all over the world. Mm. So that was quite an honor. And I did 30 performances for that festival, which others had just done 3 or 4. The city was 400,000, so there was a lot of stages and parks and theaters all around. Mm-hmm. So my friend Eddie, the guy that got me there, he booked me for 30 performances in that. Clinton was there, President Clinton, excuse me, mm-hmm. but he didn't play the saxophone, so that still made me the only American entertainer there. Now, to get back to your question, God gave me this gift. My grandparents on Daddy's side were in show business. Granddaddy played with John Philip Sousa's band, and my grandmother was a concert pianist and organist, which my daddy wanted me to be. That's why I took piano when I was a child. But when the dancing came in, but I figured since he gave me the gift, wherever I was asked to perform or whether I could find to perform even, I would go and try to give back to the people, hopefully to have a few laughs and a few smiles of my shows. Now at one time, hadn't had it in a few years, but at one time I used to have an hour show, such as when I'd go to retirement homes and nursing homes and things like that. I had friends that would come in because singing for a whole hour would be a little bit boring. In fact, one time I was at one place and had the third song finished, and the guy in the back hollered gruffly, said, "Well, when are you going to dance?" So I would get different people, not the same one all the time, but come in and break up my singing and make it a variety show. Even though back in the early days, I was the first person to open up fest events because I had a variety show. And the first year they had it, the only spot open was at 12 o'clock when the parade come in. And I was at one big stage on one end and a rock and roll band at the main stage on the other end. So I actually was the first performer for fest events. And God knows how many more I did of them.
Well, I don't know. I've seen you in numerous events over the years and all. And I understand you're going to do something special.
Well, I'd like to, but you know, so many people see me dance and know that I dance, but they don't know I sing. So I would like to sing my closing song, which is Frank Sinatra's Night and Day, which I do a big production, you know, while I'm singing. I don't just sing, I perform the song out. People say, well, you know, Tony Bennett's still singing. I said, yeah, but he just stands with a microphone and sings. I actually perform with the song itself to make a production out of it.
Well, it'd be kind of hard to do here with the desk and everything.
Well,
you're just going to
unless I'm on the tap dance on top of the desk.
Right, so you're just going to give us...
Yeah, okay.
All right, I'm going to then introduce you. I'm going to look at this camera and tell the director. I'm going to look at this camera. And I'm going to introduce, this is David Kennedy Jr., local legend, and he is going to be giving us a little sample of his singing, and take it away, David.
Okay, one other little quick notice. When I first started performing at Waterside with the Dixieland Band in Phillips Piano Lounge, after a couple of weeks, they nicknamed me the tap dancing terror of Tidewater because of I used to kick this high and the squat kick that I did in Russia. So that's where that slogan came from. Okay, maestro music, please. That way. Night and day, you are the one. Only you beneath the moon and under the sun. Whether near to me or far, it's no matter, darling, where you are. I think of you night and day, day and night. Why is it so that this longing for you follows wherever I go? In the roaring traffic booms, in the silence of my lonely room, I think of you night and day, day and night. Under the hide of me, there's such a hungry yearning burning inside of me. And this torment won't be through till you let me spend my life making love to you day and night, night and day. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you.
we don't have an applause. Our audience here. Okay. All right. Well, if you'd like to book David for your event, the contact information is at the bottom of this page and at the end of this video. I've seen him perform. He always gets a great crowd reaction. I've seen him in a lot of venues, large and small, and it's always a treat to have him on stage. So
Could I say one other thing?
I guess.
I just celebrated 3/8, I say. The 8th of January, I was 88 years young.
Okay, cool. Well, you do a remarkable job for 88, I'll say. And I thank you very much for coming in here, and
Well,
I
thank
wish
you
you a
so
lot
much.
of success. All
Thank
right,
you kindly.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching.
All right.